Pass me another boiled sweet, would you? Ships take longer, but they're far better if you ask me. I'm not scared of flying. Airplanes are abysmal. They're cramped and loud, and I can't stand the pressure. Unfortunately, it's the cost of heightened senses. I've lived long enough as me to focus on certain sounds, but being contained in this metal trap doesn't do me any favors. Just because I've traveled the world doesn't mean I enjoyed the methods of getting to and from. I would normally listen to audiobooks, but I don't want to ignore you for the whole journey. I do have some music. Would you like to listen along? They help with the pressure and my focus, but one is enough. In this case, your voice is a treat to listen to. It might not be your truth, but it is mine. Definitely better. We do have just under 10 hours to kill, so music is likely the best thing to drown out the chaos. He's currently preparing his place for us. I told him not to bother picking us up at the airport. I know where he lives, and it would be safer for him. I'm still replaying the night in my mind. I should have expected they would find me eventually, but not this soon. People that are hunted by the Trimidian normally hop from country to country and never stay in one city for too long. I can't imagine how vast their network is nowadays, what with sightings of the supernatural getting caught on camera. The majority of the world is skeptical by nature, which is good for me. If you went up to someone and said you caught a werewolf on camera, what would they say? Exactly, they wouldn't believe you. And if you showed them that footage, what would they think? Technology has progressed so far that you can fake just about anything. Having watched that evolution myself, it still fascinates me. But because we're in a time where everyone questions everything, it's easier to hide in public. But not around those who know what to look for. Remember, some people have been trained their whole lives for this. And it goes back centuries, so they know our weaknesses. And if our kind doesn't behave accordingly, it's almost as if we're waving a flag to show them where we are. I've avoided hunters for so long because I've lived among the people. There are no strange killings, no attacks, because I make sure to cover my tracks. There's no blood to trace, no missing persons, no nothing, because I'm not stupid. And should something not work out the way I intended, I compel whoever I need to. Others get caught because they only think about sating their instant gratification without looking at the consequences. That's why so many fledglings die without proper guidance. There are some who are turned on a whim to grow the family. The culprit would do the deed and then leave straight after, forcing the fledgling to fend for themselves without any notion as to what's happening to them. What about me? I don't think I can dive into that story on a plane. Maybe after we get to our destination. It's not a story I tell often. Actually, it's a story I don't tell at all. Because I don't have anyone to tell it to, so. I will, but this isn't the time or place, okay? Okay. Let's talk about something else. Like how our lives seem to have been caught by a relentless storm. How we've come so far from where we began. It feels like an age since we had our first encounter. I remember how trusting you were with your peers. You had no awareness of who was around, who else was looking at you. Yes, you were definitely armed and would have done some damage to someone other than me. But something still bothers me about that night. You've been working at that Jollibee for some time, and you knew the way home. I assume you've walked it plenty of times. But on that particular night, you decided to walk down an alley that had a dead end. Why? If it wasn't me who followed, you would have handled yourself fine, but it was the first and only time I was watching you. Had you done it before? No, I'm still trying to figure out the extent of bonds. Some people in the world might be researching it, but none of that will be publicized. And although ISIS confirmed that there was such a bond, we're on our own when it comes to how it works. Doesn't help that it's practically a myth, and we can't go asking about it anymore. I don't think there's any point to that anyway. Some of my enemies seem far too excited to know I have something to lose. You're not a weakness. You never have been. In the beginning, I might have not liked the idea of a bond because it meant I was now tethered to someone without any say. I didn't choose you, you didn't choose me. What if we were bound and you had a significant other? It would have made this ordeal much worse, so we're lucky it happened the way it did. If you had a partner, you wouldn't want to know what I'd do. I couldn't leave you alone. The way I feel about you. I couldn't live the rest of my days knowing that I was more suited for you. And deep down you would know the same. You wouldn't feel whole, and your relationship would most likely deteriorate. Once you knew of me, there'd be no going back. I just know. When I saw you the first time, the spark was instant. Sure, you stabbed me, but that made me like you even more. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had found something I'd lost. But I take pride in my memory, so I knew it wasn't something I'd forgotten. I doubt I'd ever be able to forget you unless I was compelled to do so, but I don't see how that could happen either. Well, you're quite the memorable person. Yes, I'm glad that the compulsion didn't work. As much as it was my duty to have you forget me, the fact that you didn't brings me some form of solace. I have some friends scattered around the world, but they're not necessarily people I'm close with. Though there are a few exceptions, people I've spilt blood for, bled with. When it comes to humans, I have no connections. At least they don't know about it. Those I have cared about died hundreds of years ago. Yet another story for another time, I'm afraid. It might keep my mind off the flight, but the story wouldn't take 10 hours. My story might, but I don't want to get into it. Let's listen to the music. I'll try and shut my brain off for as long as I can before I throw myself out of this damn thing. Of course you can use my shoulder to sleep. Just make sure your neck's not crooked. Of course I worry about you. All the time. Now rest. Of course he would go for flamboyance and loudness. Why do you think he chose New Orleans as his home? Though I admit it's smart to be here when the occult is the main attraction. Oh, I haven't told you who we're staying with. Well, you'll see soon enough. Ah, what a surprise. Sure. Such a pleasure to see you again. And so soon, too. Yes, the circumstances are far from ideal. But I'm glad to host the both of you. I was surprised when I got the call, actually. I was surprised I had to make it. Well, at least you're both here, safe and sound, and in one piece. Come, I'll show you to your room. You really ought to try some minimalism in this place. That doesn't suit me. There's no fun in having something here and there that's bland and goes unnoticed. I like collecting pieces that start conversations. I am, like you, a collector of sorts. Only my home is my gallery. Have you even been to my gallery? Of course. You've got some good pieces. But if we're speaking candidly, I think you should broaden your taste a little. It's not my taste I'm showcasing. Yes, it is. And it's boring. You can sleep in here while you stay. Do you know how long for? Unfortunately, no. I apologize for the haste, but we had to leave. And this was the first place I thought of. Really? I'm honored. I never thought this would be used as a safe house. But how safe is it? The structure is good, reinforced glass, and because we're high, you won't get many surprises from outside. Unless they make their grand entrance in a helicopter. I've never seen you this worried. Maybe some whiskey will take off some of the edge. Thank you. We're in the heart of the city. If anyone tries to do anything, it won't be just this building that falls. There will be many casualties. I think more than they are willing to kill for you. And if they do, then I have seriously underestimated them. I don't want to use the people of New Orleans as meat shields. They will be far less tempted to do something now. And for you, tell me what happened. We were settling down for the night. Nothing was out of the ordinary, and we had typical English weather. But then I heard something in the next room, so I got up to have a look, and a vampire had broken in. But when I was fighting him, another vampire tried to attack my love. And if it wasn't for my friend who was guarding the house that night, I don't think I would have gotten there in time. Oh. Did you get hurt? Good. It could have ended very differently. But we managed to capture one of the vampires and had a little interrogating session. I bet you loved that. I did. I wanted her to scream for mercy before I denied it and made her suffer. But she told me she was sent by someone you might be familiar with. You're serious? Mm-hmm. The Trimidian have marked me. Or at least that's what it looks like. Thought she was a rogue vampire coming to settle some type of score, and she was, but she had her information all wrong. And guess who fed it to her? The Trimidian. Exactly. I tried to tell her that it wasn't me. The Trimidian was hunting me down at the time, and they killed her family, not me. But obviously, they didn't take credit for it. I suppose it doesn't fit with their brand. Anyway, she's on our side, for the most part. Well, if they've marked you, nowhere is safe. That's all we can do, just run. They've been active for how long? Why are they now targeting you? Because I have something to lose now. Strange. What? Don't you think it's strange that the Trimidians send someone after you only when you have your bond? I'm not following. As soon as there is talk of it, they come straight after you. Do you think it's possible they've known where you've been all along? And if they have, they could have attacked you at any time, so why now, when you have something to lose? Isn't their mission to cleanse the world? Isn't that it? Yes. So why bide their time? It didn't add up to me either. The Trimidian that I remember were purists. They never allowed the creatures they were hunting into their ranks, nor did they converse with them. Back when I first knew about them, I knew factions that killed their own if they were turned or bit. If there was any sign of something not human, they were executed. And it didn't matter who it was or what position they had in society. Their code was black and white, and it made them predictable. But now they break bread with vampires to take out other vampires. What sort of game are they playing? It's been centuries. Things are bound to change. But you'd expect a society that preaches the genocide of our kind to not interact with us in any sort of way. Do you remember back in our day when the Trimidian used to snuff us out by the thousands? putting us on display so other people could watch so-called Hellions burn to death. We weren't given trials or any form of way to defend ourselves once we were captured. We knew that death awaited us if we were caught by them. Yes, love. No, I've never been caught by any hunters, and certainly not the Trimidian. Lone hunters have their own code, but ones who are part of the Trimidian would all have to share the same values. That's why when Xanthus was captured, I assumed that the family were on their own. It's common to happen. They get exposed to our world, and if they're familiar with weaponry or have the determination, they'll dedicate their lives to hunting us, and then pass those values on to their children. These kind of families can get recruited by the Trimidian, yes, but they're always human. Until now. Until now. What do you think their mission is now? I don't know anymore. Before, I could have easily said, the extinction of the supernatural world. But now I'm not sure. You scared? If I wasn't, do you think I'd be here? Of course I'm scared. They only come out of the woodwork now, and for what? Sending people who have a vendetta against me now that I can be hurt? If they wanted to, why not kill me before and get it over and done with? Sure, the Trimidian are happy to torture us, but not if it means we get to breathe another day. They're not merciful like that. I've never seen you like this. Well, that's because this has never happened before. When was the last time you felt like this? Is this a therapy session? We've known each other for almost 100 years. And I still know next to nothing about you, not even your real name. You trust me enough being in your home, and now you choose my home as a safe house. That means you feel some type of way about me, even if you don't know exactly how. Look, like it or not, we're in this together now. I know. The past catches up with you eventually. This is not your past, Xanthus. What comes after you is coming for us all. All of us who aren't quite human. Even you, child. To share a bond with a vampire is no human thing. You're feeling what he's feeling. A blessing and a curse, unfortunately. Don't worry about me, love. You know I can handle myself. Yes, so you vampires always seem to say. I have to keep up appearances, don't I? Not in here, you don't. I have a debt that I must pay to you. It doesn't stop at using my home. You saved my life, and the others who were locked up with me. You didn't have to risk yourself to do that. I felt I needed to. Exactly. You know what drove that need? What? Your humanity. You're a vampire, but you still have a heart. You still care. I've seen so many succumb to their power, their strength. They numb themselves with blood, or they turn it all off and live on autopilot because they're afraid of what they'll feel. You're, what, 400 years old now? I've known vampires to cast their humanity away only decades into their new way of living. But you're strong, and I think it's because you still hold on to your life. You make the most of it, which is more than I can say for others. I was told to do that. To hang on to the memory of mortality. By who? The man who turned me. How old was he when he turned you? Somewhere in the 500s, I think. Well, he had enough experience to know what he was talking about. He didn't tell me much about his life. Only that he'd seen enough death to question the meaning of his own life. What do you mean? I suppose the both of you have been waiting for this story. I know, but like Xanthus said, us being here is an extension of trust. And considering the predicament we're in now, it seems like the best time to say it. I was a child who blindly believed in family, to hold on to their traditional values. My father was disabled and couldn't fight with the royalists who believed in the monarchy, so he wanted me to fight in his stead. I didn't share his beliefs, but he wanted the approval of all the other highborn families to bolster his title as Viscount. It was the first thing he had ever truly asked of me. I still remember the look on his face when I offered my thoughts of doubt, almost as if every word I spoke pushed a dagger deeper and deeper into his heart. So he told me that if I didn't do it, he would strip me of my own title, and the successor of him would be my younger brother. I'd be cast out of the family. Yes, I had a brother, 7 years younger. He showed no interest at the time of following in father's footsteps, as I was the one groomed for it. It was always expected of me, and I remember my brother wanting to become an explorer of some kind. I don't know, his mind was always off somewhere. So I joined the Royalist Army when I was 18, and my father could say he contributed to England's values. The first fight I was part of was the Battle of Newburn, before the English Civil War. We were supposed to control the crossing on the River Tyne, but where I was stationed, it was a massacre. They had better ground while we were trudging in the marshes. And all I remember is feeling this blinding white heat in my chest, and I passed out. When I came to, I was being treated by a doctor, and I felt different. It's hard to explain, but I could just sense that something was very wrong.
You died?
Yes. I was laying there, overcome by the sounds, the light, the smell of blood, and lingering death. It was almost like I was reborn again. It was all new to me. And then when I looked down at myself, I had no injuries. I almost went into a state of panic, but Audric, the doctor, calmed me down and said I was going to be okay. And that's when he told me the truth. That he gave me his blood and broke my neck.
What?
And I wasn't the only one he turned. There were plenty of soldiers on the verge of death, and he was a medical officer. I remember him telling me he saved the ones with inconspicuous wounds so as not to arouse suspicion, but him being there was reckless, no matter how you look at it.
Why was he there?
To do some good. That's what he told me anyway. He said that there was so much life lost, he wanted to bring back what he could no matter what.
But fresh vampires? In a war full of blood? That's more than reckless.
I agree. I know he wanted to save people, but being around that much bloodshed is tempting for any of us. A fledgling can go off the rails if they smell just a scratch, like a shark. Anyway, after we retreated and the battle was over, I sought him out, and I wasn't the only one. Those he'd turned had found him, and he took us all under his wing, taught us the basics and how to survive. We were akin to family.
And what about your old one?
I had Audric confirm I was killed in action, which was technically true. I couldn't return to my father after that defeat. It probably served him better anyway. His son who fought valiantly and died for his country. All that man cared about was money, status, and connections that gave him more of it. My death was likely used at dinner parties to garner sympathy. Don't worry, he was a bitter old man who died alone, or so I heard. My brother did well, despite not wanting to continue the family legacy. His wife was a charitable woman who often supported the poor, so he decided to start a trust for victims of war, which I thought was incredibly him. He found the perfect family. A wife, children, grandchildren. I kept an eye on him during his life. I made sure he was doing well, was protected. But I couldn't let him know I was alive because it would put the whole family in danger. I went to his funeral to pay my respects, and after, I vowed to protect his progeny, which I still do. Yes, even after all these years.
And what about Audric?
Audric? I haven't seen him in decades. Last I heard of him, he found the Trimidian, and that's it. Nothing else after. He's probably dead.
Why was he looking for them in the first place?
Because a long time ago, they executed his wife during the witch trials. They didn't know about him, but he swore to himself that he would root them out and dismantle them from the inside. I know what I do because of him. And we documented as much as possible, which I've brought with me. I've known about the Trimidian since Aldrich told me. He was already hunting them, but he didn't get far because of the wars. His plan was to make as many vampires as possible so we could all help him bring down the Trimidian together. And I thought that would work. I really believed we had a chance. We'd found a few stems by the end of the 1700s. They tended to flock around churches, so our strategy was simple but effective, and we took out whoever we could. The ones we captured to interrogate never gave up who was behind it all. They weren't even seduced by the idea of becoming more than human. They're annoyingly loyal. Then I found one member myself, and decided to capture him. But I was too naive and overcome with passion. The way Aldrich talked, it lit a fire in me. And though it wasn't my choice to become a vampire, I couldn't sit around twiddling my thumbs when people like me were being murdered. I wanted to show him I was a good asset. I wanted to prove my worth and let him see I wasn't taking what he gave me for granted. By that point, I'd never really done anything because I chose to. I never wanted to succeed my father, never wanted to go to war, never wanted to die. But taking down a cult, hell-bent on killing people like me, that sounded good to me. It gave me a purpose I was longing for. Only I wasn't careful enough. I had no idea there was a group of them, and that they used the one I captured as bait. I led them straight to Aldrich's family. They knew about vampires, and to the Trimidian, that was enough to condemn them all. They butchered them. His whole lineage was wiped out in a night. All because I was foolish and thought I had found our next clue to discovering the Trimidian. I didn't know they were a step ahead.
It was an accident.
Accidents still have consequences, and mine caused innocent people to die. I've always thought of it as betrayal. He made me what I am, trained me, and I led his family to the slaughter in return.
But you didn't know.
That's exactly it. I didn't know. And I should have. I should have realized capturing that one member was far too easy, but I was too enraptured by my achievement to see it. Ego blinds you. Yes, that's why my connections are so vast. I can't rest if I have knowledge to gain, because that can be the difference between life and death.
No wonder you were so uptight about the bond.
If the elders don't even know it all, then it's folly to think I could. And that makes me anxious.
I can only imagine, Xanthus. Thank you for sharing that part of your history with us.
I don't visit it often enough.
May I offer my opinion as the oldest? I promise you'll gain some knowledge from it.
Go ahead.
The past is great to study. It's the only place we can go to understand how things were and how they became what they are. Humanity evolves, but primal instincts are difficult to ignore. It's why a lot of history repeats itself, and it will continue to repeat itself in a variety of ways, and you might think that dissecting your past is the way to solve your future. But by trying so hard to prevent the same outcome, you'll be blinded by another threat staring right at you. There is nothing wrong with planning ahead, but it becomes a problem when that is all you're focused on, and then you can't prepare for anything else before it's too late.
So, you're saying I should take it one step at a time? What's the lesson here?
There is no lesson. We remember the past to learn from our mistakes and the mistakes made before us. What you need to decide is what you consider failures, and be better. You are one of the shrewdest vampires I know, and that's saying something. You will do whatever it takes to succeed in whatever your endeavor is. You never cower, never falter. You do what you believe needs to be done, even if it puts you at risk. So have some faith in yourself, in what you envision for your future. Sometimes that can be the factor that decides it all.
I think I felt your charm a little there.
I speak from experience, and to those I've listened to.
Thousands, I assume.
Hundreds of thousands. And they all share the same doubts and fears of themselves.
And how many were being hunted by a cult set on killing the one they,
The one they... You mean love?
No, it's an English expression. It's like darling. You know what I mean.
Sure. For now, rest. The both of you. We can talk again if you need my wisdom.
I might, if I have no other choice. Getting life advice from an incubus
is
isn't...
kind of my job. You feel a little more relaxed, don't you?
Hardly.
If you keep lying to yourself like that, you might actually believe it's true.
Thank you for your priceless wisdom, O wise master.
And you have to put up with him? I pity you.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Whatever you want to believe, remember? Make yourselves comfortable. I've made sure to stock food, so for now, your home is my home. Welcome to New Orleans, love.
Okay, that's enough. Only I am allowed to call them that. Out.
Possessive, aren't you?
When I need to be. Wait here for a moment, okay? In all seriousness, I do want to thank you. Us being here is putting you in danger, and I know the city is camouflage for us, but it will only be a matter of time. You know that. I was indebted to you, and you needed help. I can't do nothing when the one that saved my life needs their saving. Well, not your life, but you know what I mean. I must protect them. They're in this because of me, because I dragged them into this life. From what you've told me, aren't they an extension of your compassion? You saved their ancestor, and now you're both bonded. If anything, they were meant to be here. But putting them in harm's way... I didn't ask for any of this. People ask for obstacles, for ways to prove themselves. You're afraid of them because you don't want to admit you can fail. Always so smart, aren't you? And don't forget wise. This is your biggest obstacle yet, and it will test you. But we'll work it out another time. You've both had a long flight, so rest for tonight. If you need anything, just call. Thank you. I'll be in your debt after this. No, if a debt is paid with another debt, we'll be caught in a cycle until one of us dies. I'll ask for an extravagant gift, like a Serini painting or something. That's quite the gift. But I could make it happen. Right now, your gift to me would be rest. Okay. Good night. Good night. Unpacking already? You can do that tomorrow. Come, let's go to bed. You must be exhausted. Your life has taken quite a turn, hasn't it? You were just living your life before trying to make ends meet, and now you're halfway across the world in the care of a vampire and an incubus. Not to mention having a 500-year-old cult after you. It would scare anyone, even the strongest, so you don't need to lie to me. I can feel it, remember? It's rare for me to feel this anxious because I've always been able to defeat it, whether that be by wit or power. And no one can survive without help, which is why I attach a debt to whoever I save. It's selfish, I know, but it's a failsafe. Just in case of surprises like this where I need to collect those debts. If not for my network, I would have been long dead. Maybe I am paranoid. Always waiting for my life to take a turn and have karma catch up to me. But it never bothered me before. I had nothing to fear because I had nothing to lose, except my life, and that isn't a precious thing to me. You are. You're the only thing precious to me right now, and I will protect you no matter what it takes. I have cared for people in the past, of course. My brother, his family, lovers I've had over the decades. But no one like you. I've never had this kind of connection with someone. To constantly wonder how they are, to think about them at every moment of the day and hope they're thinking about you. I've never been so possessive of anyone. Even if it is just the bond making me feel this way, I think it's still worth it. It's too real to ignore or chalk it up to a coincidence. If Xanthus is right, then this is supposed to happen. Us. I didn't think you'd be the ride or die type, but I wouldn't have you any other way. At the end of the day, you're my type. Frankly, I don't care if it is the bond. Not anymore. I know I used to despise it, but now I'm not as opposed to the idea. Maybe because I finally have something to fight for. I made this, and I don't want to fix it or break it. I want to cherish it. And you. I said, didn't I? I'm yours. For however long forever lasts for us. I don't think I'll ever get enough of kissing you. I've kissed you plenty of times, and it seems to taste sweeter than the last. Your blood or kisses? That's a little unfair, isn't it? Well, I need both. But if I had to choose, I think I'd taste your lips one more time. Blood I can get anywhere, but I only want my kisses from you. A romantic? Me? No, I'm just vocal with what I want. Right now, I want you to sleep. You hardly slept on the plane, and I can imagine you're running on fumes. We need all the strength we can muster for the fight to come. You might not be doing any fighting, but I need you to be strong for me. There may be a time when I might falter or doubt myself, but when I feel you through the bond, I know I'm not alone. I know I'm needed. Well, you bring that out of me. Now sleep. Cuddle into me all you want. I'll watch over you. Good night.